Hey guys, it's your boy Benjamin, and this is part 2 of Wilderness Stories, because last time I intended to say all of them, but the recording ended up being 33 minutes long, so I figured, why not just make a part 2? So here I am. Picking up off of last time, I talked about my week with the second boys group, where people weren't very nice and there was a fight, and that was great, so I got moved to a girls group. I got moved to the third girls group. And while I was in there, my second week there, we went to the same place that we went when I was in the first boys group, when they vandalized the bathroom and a guy stole a dog collar and all of that stuff happened. If you haven't seen the previous video, you should probably go and check it out in the description below, because it's pretty great and a lot of stuff you won't really understand probably if you don't watch it first. So go check that out. So while we were in this beautiful place, which I described last time, it's great, has great water spots, it's not super hot because it's in the mountains. We go for a day hike one day. And so we've been hiking for a while. My group is a lot, frankly, slower than the other groups I was in. So we hiked for 3 miles, and it was uphill pretty much the whole time. And we stopped for lunch and a little bit of therapy work time. So we stopped for 2 hours, and then we keep hiking. And now it's about 3 o'clock at this point, and we get to this part of the mountain where, and I'm not even joking, it's like that. And there are a bunch of, bushes and stuff like that and rocks on this that you can kind of step on. Otherwise, you would need to be on all fours to be able to get up it. So we end up getting up this little length, and then there were just rocks. Or should I say boulders? There are just a bunch of boulders that you have to step on, and they're of various shapes and sizes, and they slide a lot, and it's not fun. So you have to navigate these boulders, and then we ended up getting to this big clearing of boulders where there are trees here and more boulders where we came up this side, and then it's just up. Almost a sheer wall, but it's a little bit of like an incline, so it's like this, and it's just dirt and rocks and cactuses and more rocks and mostly rocks. It's rocks. And we're like, okay, great. We got to this part of the mountain, and this looks really cool, but it's like 7 o'clock at this point, and it's starting to get dark, and it's starting to get colder, and we have not had dinner yet, and none of us have food. So can we go down? And they were like, no. This is a great challenge for us, so we're gonna go up it. And so this is after a lot of deliberation. We're begging them not to make us go up it. And when they said that, I just kind of silently started crying. Keep in mind, I have been hiking all day at this point. Went up some super, super steep stuff. I'm very hungry. I'm cold. I'm pretty sure I also had to go to the bathroom at this point. It was no good. So at this point, I have started crying, and I sit there for about a couple of minutes, and people are refusing. So then a switch just kind of flips in my brain, and I'm like, you know what? I no longer care. So I start scrambling across these rocks towards the actual summit of the mountain, and at that point, and they're begging us, like, they're not exactly begging, but they're telling us not to go further for some reason. I think just so that the people behind don't feel bad or something. And I have decided at this point that I no longer care. So I kind of scale part of the mountain like a demon on all fours. I stuck my hand in a cactus as well, and there was like 5 little puncture wounds on my hand for like a couple of weeks afterwards. That wasn't fun. We end up climbing this mountain for about an hour and a half, and we're only about halfway up till we get to this point where it's just basically just loose rocks and dirt, and it's very, very steep to the point where you can't walk upright anymore. And so I really have to pee at this point, so I kind of move to the side, and I go behind this one big rock, and I pee, and then I come out, and they're all celebrating, and I'm like, what's going on? And the guides have finally decided to let us down the mountain. Thank God! So we're all so excited to get down, so some people decide to methodically go down, some people decide to go down backwards, and my strategy is to slide. Because there's so many loose rocks, you can take a step, lean back, and you'll just kind of slide along with the rocks. Uh, and so I end up getting down. I think I'm like third or fourth or something. And when I get down, one of the girls has had to go pee so bad that she unfortunately peed her pants. Now it is probably about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're all hungry. And this girl has peed her pants. So one of the guides is nice enough to give her her own thermals, and we are on our way down. And so keep in mind, we had to go up all of these rocks. And so now we have to go down all of these rocks when it is dark and it is wet. And so that's a lot of fun. I think it was one of the guides. She fell and she had a lot of bruises afterwards. That was no fun. It when I look back on it, it feels like a fever dream because this is done at like 11, 12 midnight, and it's so steep. And then we get to that really steep part, and we're like kind of crisscrossing down it, and it's just it feels like a fever dream. I don't really remember a lot of it because it was so tiring. So we get down, and some people are faster than others. And I remember just sitting, and there's this dirt road at the bottom of the really steep part. And from then on, it's basically just smooth cruising, and it's downhill, but it's not super downhill. So I just remember just sitting on the side of the road, and my pack is on my back, and I'm trying to take a nap because I know it'll take super long for the people behind to like catch up. And I remember one of the girls had a book in her pack, and so she's just reading aloud to everybody because everybody's so bored and done with everything at this point. When everybody's there, we walk and we're just kind of walking along the road. Nobody's really talking. And then it turns midnight and we realize it's one of the guide's birthdays. And so we sing happy birthday to her in a tired stupor. We get to camp at like, I don't know, 1:30, 2 a.m. And some people don't even eat dinner that night because they don't want to deal with it. But the thing is, every Saturday, and this was on a Saturday, I made burritos. And that started on the 4th of July because 4th of July was a Saturday and I had nothing to celebrate it with. So I took all of my food and I combined it and I made a burrito. And I will talk about my food another time, but Burrito Saturday was my thing. And I was not going to miss Burrito Saturday. Technically, it was Burrito Sunday at this point, but that's not the point. So I made a burrito, and I went to bed at like 2:30 that night. After that point, that point was known as the Mountain of Doom because it sucked. It sucked. And whenever I would be hiking from then on, I would just think, at least it's not the Mountain of Doom. At least it's not 2 a.m. And that was the Mountain of Doom. So, next story was what we fondly called the ER week. Which, side note, she's fine now, but my sister was actually in the ER the same week because she got stung by a bunch of fire ants, which sucks, but funny coincidence. Anyways, this week we are backpacking in a fun little canyon area, and so the plan was to drive to this place. We were going to hike along the canyon and into the canyon the first day, and then we were going to hike in the canyon for the couple more days, and then we're going to hike out on the last day. Pretty simple, right? So we drive to the place, which is very beautiful, by the way, and we get there. And some of the people in my group have been there before, so they're talking about their past experiences, and they're like, oh, well, we were here last time, and like, you know, there are some like weird deer legs over there. Somebody just like killed a deer and left its legs there. It was so weird. And one girl is, delicately put it, she's scared of deer and pretty much all animals. She heard about these deer legs, and she decided that she was not going to get out of the car because there was deer legs, and there was also a deer nearby. And, like, it was a female deer, it didn't have any antlers or anything, but she still decided that she was not going to get out of the van because there was a deer. And we were like, okay, I mean, if you want to, it's not going to do any good, and the deer's not going to attack you. And side note, apparently this fear comes from the fact that she had seen a deer get attacked on YouTube once. Oh, that didn't come out right. She had seen a person get attacked by a deer on YouTube once, which she had told this to me earlier. And she said, "Yeah, I saw someone get killed by a deer once," and I had to be told from an external source that it was on YouTube. So, yeah. Anyways, she eventually did get out of the van because the deer left, and like a guide sat in there and he convinced her to get out of the van. And then there was a bunch of drama because she was mad at us for not caring about her. I guess is those were her words, and of course we weren't the most compassionate because this had been done before, and um she was afraid and she wasn't exactly thinking clearly, and we were annoyed, so we weren't thinking clearly, and the whole situation just really sucked. So we ate lunch there and we got packed up and we started hiking, and she did not. And she sat and she cried and she screamed, and a guide had to stay back with her while we hiked about 500 feet forward, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we can't go any further until she moves." So that went on for about an hour, and then we finally started hiking. So we were hiking along this canyon, along the side of the canyon for a while, and then we stopped for some snacks, and then we kept going, and finally we started hiking into the canyon. And we had gotten maybe like a fifth of the way down. It was hard to see because it was dark at this point. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And apparently she had fainted. They didn't know what it was at that point, and so we all just kind of sat around and waited for a while, because we didn't know what was going on, and she was way behind because she was not the fastest hiker, which technically she shouldn't have been that much behind, but we were all, like, done with her at this point, so we basically kind of refused to stop. Oops. And so the guides had to like walkie-talkie back and forth and see what was going on. So then we had to hike back out of the canyon, which it was very steep, by the way. And through this, when we were sitting, this just comes to mind. I had a competition with my friend to see how far we could fit our feet in our mouth. I don't think there was a winner. I think it was a tie. I'm pretty sure it was a tie. Anyways, we hiked back up the canyon, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and we decide to camp in a place that is technically not a campsite, and so it's a really bad campsite, and we're supposed to build a shelter every night, but we just kind of don't this night because we're all just fed up, and it's late, and I remember distinctly that, like, I went to pee, and then there was, like, a bush behind me, so I wanted to move the bush, and I ended up peeing on my hand. You didn't need to know that, but now you do. Good for you. Uh, and so then we just kind of sleep there. And so in the morning, we get up and they're like, "Hey, so turns out we are going to have to drive to a clinic 7 hours away because we don't know why she fainted and we have to figure out why." So, like, great, we're gonna hike back to the vans and we're gonna drive for 5 hours, which hiking back to the vans sucks. But if we get to sit around for 7 hours, it's great. So we start hiking back to the vans, right? And people are not very happy. People are pretty cranky because we were supposed to be just going backpacking. Backpacking isn't great, but at least you know what's happening, and now we're doing something else, and we're gonna have to go to a clinic or whatever. So we're trying to hike back to the vans, and at one point there are two ways. One of them is on a path, and it's just a regular path. It's the one we've been going on, but it's pretty steep, and it kind of goes around the mountain like this. Now the other way is not really a path. You have to do some bushwhacking to get to a little path, and it kind of goes like this, and it's not so bad because it's not so steep. And so the group is basically split because some people want to go on the path and some people want to go bushwhacking. So we sit here for like 10 minutes deliberating on whether we should go bushwhack or whether we should go on the path. And at some point, one of the guys is like, "Guys, we need to get to this clinic, so we're just going to go on the path because that's the way we know." And so one of the people is not very happy with this decision because he wanted to go on the bushwhacking part. By the way, just for clarification, most wilderness groups are not co-ed. The only reason that my group was co-ed was because we were like the trans group. This person just kind of walks very, very, very fast. And the guides are begging for him to stop. Like, because we're not supposed to be super far apart because they're supposed to be able to see all of the people, all the students at all times. And he's getting to the point where they can't keep an eye on all of us. And some people are still putting on their packs. They're not as fast as him. So they're still putting on our packs. He's way up the hill. And so basically we have to make a choice. There are two guides. One of them is chasing after this guy who went ahead, and another guide is staying behind with the people who aren't as fast. So I make the choice, because at this point I was a little bit more farther in my stay, so I was a bit faster. I decided to go along with the guide that was trying to catch up to this guy. And so I, with a couple of other people, kind of go after them. We end up going off to this side path that he took. And it's not the main path, it's the side path, but it's a more direct path. And then we get to kind of a curve, and we just see him, he's like panting, he just stopped. We're like, okay, thank God that's done. We're not having to walk very fast anymore, and finally he's stopped, so we don't have to, like, and so then we're talking about, man, this girl back there, I'm gonna call her Harriet. Harriet is, Harriet has asthma, like pretty bad asthma, and so when she walks too fast, she could get asthma attacks. And so we're like, yeah, I mean, it really sucks. She's kind of struggling back there, but we can't leave now, and also she has to do it herself. Like, yeah, the situation sucks, but we have to let her grow from it, or whatever. That's what we said. The guy who had gone ahead, I'm gonna call him Isaac. He was known for rescuing people, which basically means they can do it themselves, but a lot of times they don't want to or whatever, and he'll just do it for them. And at this point, Harriet, I don't really know, but I'm assuming that she was not exactly asking for help, but Isaac heard this, and so he drops his pack without a word and starts running back down the path towards her. The guide is like, okay, we gotta follow him. We can't just, like, leave him to go, because at this point he's freaking out, kinda. He refused to stop. He's not speaking. So it's a stressful situation. So the guide drops her pack, and we all drop our packs, just on this path, and we start running. And we get to the main path that we branched off from, and there are two people that had gone off the wrong path because they didn't see us when we went on the side path, so we have to call them back. Harriet is having an asthma attack, and so she's, like, freaking out as well. It's super hot. It's like 100 degrees out. Probably not that much, but like 90 degrees out. And it's just insane. And so Isaac sees all this, and he goes off to the side, and he starts punching the ground very violently, and we just kind of stand by and watch. And then after that, he's howling because it hurts so bad, and we have to get out, like, the med kit, and is just bad. So we end up, after all of this has happened, after Harriet has gotten over her asthma attack, and after Isaac has kind of calmed down a little bit, we all get our packs and we go to the van. And then 20 minutes later, while we are driving, we smell burning rubber. And it turns out the tire had popped. And it had, like, really popped. Like, it had popped a while ago, and now the rubber was burning, and it was exploded, and half the tire was, like, fun! Really, really fun. So that was great. We had to wait 4 hours to be able to fix it. So that was fantastic. And then finally, and I think it was getting dark at this point that we start driving again, and it's a long while to drive. And within this time, the girl who had fainted, I'm gonna call her Amelia, her parents had found out, and they called her an ambulance from Colorado, because we were kind of near to the border of Colorado at this point, because we were in Utah. And so we drive out, and it's like 11 o'clock when we get to this bridge. under a highway, and there's a ambulance there, and Amelia gets into the ambulance with one of our guides, and the guide comes back a couple of days later, but we never saw Amelia again because she got withdrawn from the program. That was great. That was a weird night, and even after Amelia we left Amelia. Isaac's hand has started to swell up. It's turning purple. It doesn't look good. So we have to take him to another ER, and that takes a couple of more hours. He had fractured his hand, and we went to bed at about 3:30 that night. And we called that the ER week. A very fun week. And what topped it all off is that in the morning they realized that the guide that had went with Amelia had taken the med box key where everybody's medications were in, so I couldn't get my medications in the morning. So I started to freak out, and so we had to go to an Ace Hardware, which is really, really rare. Like, you don't go into stores. Like, we didn't go to the stores. Like, the guide went into the store, but you don't go to stores when you're in Wilderness. But she had to go into the store and get some lock cutters to be able for us to get our meds. It sucked. And then we were gonna stay in this place that we camped for the rest of the week, but that day was 104 degrees, and we were supposed to get exercise. We were supposed to do stuff while in woods, and so if it was 104 degrees, we literally couldn't do anything without the risk of like heat stroke and stuff. So we ended up going back to the mountains that I had talked about in the week with the first boys group and the week with the Mountain of Doom. We ended up going back there, and we day hiked a little bit, and that day was a fantastic day. It was wonderful. That place is great.